Hello and welcome everyone, I'm Patchwork and today we're going to be going over DCS Huey. Now, I did have a DCS Black Shark video and it did actually have a surprising success to it. And because of that, I wanted to make this because I personally feel like the other one was... It wasn't that great. It was recorded when I was extremely tired, so unfortunately I couldn't have very coherent thoughts on the situation, a lot of pauses, because I just couldn't think of anything and my mind went blank. So, essentially this is going to be my apology for that, and we're going to go ahead and try to do better this time with DCS Huey. This mission that I'm playing right now is available on Eagle Dynamics' website, and I'll have a link in the description. Works just fine in both single player and multiplayer. It works with the Mi-8 and the DCS Huey. However, as far as I'm aware, the DCS Huey is the only helicopter that can sling load. So I'm going to be using the Huey, but it still is possible to use the Mi-8 for transport.
Hero.
We got a vehicle there. Anyway, so basically the point of this is, if you were to be playing this in multiplayer, and even single player, it just has more relevance in multiplayer. You get money for completing certain jobs. Now, money is basically the scoring system in this. Unfortunately, you know, you can't use it to buy fuel, which would make this awesome, but I believe that is just a limitation within the game itself. But if it isn't, you know, it's a possibility. If you're the creator of this mission and you're watching this, it'd be appreciated. It'd be just awesome if you added the money aspect to also be able to buy fuel, and it would add more depth for the single player aspect of this as well. But essentially what it is you have cargo drop areas, you have cargo that you need to sling load to different locations, and you have troops that you can take over to, say, their station. There's two different drop points for cargo, and that is two different airports fairly close together, and the farther you take it, the more money you will get. And once again, like I said, the money is the scoring system within this game. And it can just be fun to, you know, play this mission in single player as well, just to do the cargo lifting and the transport itself. It doesn't necessarily have to be competitive with your friends to make this fun, because, you know, once again, DCS Huey is all about the experience of flight. Now I'm going to, I'm just doing a quick hover check here. I just want to make sure that, you know, everything's all centered out, because there will be sling loading, so I want to make sure that, you know, my trim is correctly set for hover, because in the Huey, trim is what it's all about to keeping a stable hover. As you're going to see while we move up to the first cargo location, it's, once you have that trim set, it's really not that difficult to hover, and, you know, it's going to definitely aid us for picking up the cargo. So we're going to go ahead and move up. Now, I already know where the cargo is. I've done this multiple times. We're going to do it close first, because I don't want to make this video, you know, an hour long, so we're just going to use the close one. So what we have to do is go into our radio, hit the all cargo there, and go ahead and set the cargo within the vicinity, and it'll put some red smoke there, and as we get closer, it'll disappear, but at least it gives us something we can reference. We know where it is. So I'm going to go ahead and loop around, just to bleed off some of that speed, because I did come in not only a bit high, but a bit fast. And you can really hear the engine ramping up there. That's because we're no longer getting transitional lift. We're leaving that, so we have to actually put in a little bit more power to keep us hovering, or in the air. So I'm going to go ahead and move in. Should be able to get this in the first try. Now there is a camera you can use, which I'll show you a bit later. I shouldn't need it, because as you can see in the top, especially the top left, you can see, you know, it tells you when you're above it and when you've hooked it. So when you're above it, you know, I feel like that's enough. Some people might think that's a bit cheap to have a little indicator telling you right when you're above it, but in real life you have people that are actually, you know, attaching it to it, so you don't have to be as precise, whereas as this, you don't have anyone helping you out on the ground to tell you where you need to go and things like that. So it's definitely, you know, so there you go. There's the actual camera you can see there. Once again, I don't believe you need it. I mean, For some people, you might need it if you need that little extra help, but I personally don't, because I feel that the indicator at the top saying when I'm over the cargo is perfect enough. So as you can see, you might be able to see that vehicle near that hangar, and that vehicle, and there's going to be a guy there, that's where we need to drop it off. Now, unfortunately, this Sling, you can definitely feel how it changes the flight model, and you can see I'm not exactly having a good time trying to keep this thing stable. It's because the cargo does swing when it's underused, so you have problems. It will change the flight dynamic of it, and can be sometime. I mean, it's exponentially more difficult to hover. So we're gonna go ahead and try to lower ourselves down. Now we have to get the cargo on the ground just perfect, otherwise it'll count the cargo as damaged, and we unfortunately won't get paid. So we're gonna try to do this as stable. I can't. That was not good. Now I'm just dragging the cargo on the ground. I don't have a good feeling about this time. I mean, that's just problem. It's you're very vulnerable to things like vortex ring state and just not being able to keep a stable hover due to the object definitely weighing you down, and as you can see, it's swaying back and forth, so it will change your flight dynamic. But I am going to use the camera here because I just want to make sure. I really don't want to do this a second time. We're going to go ahead and give it a go. Trying to do it nice and careful. Now, trying to keep my eye on the hangar there, so I have a reference point to where I can hover, but unfortunately, it's just really difficult to keep that hover when you have that there. Up, dropped a little bit too much. Yeah, it looks like that is on its side, so I unfortunately probably won't get paid for that. That's a bit rough. As you saw, I really started dropping at the end there once it touched the ground. That's because I no longer was carrying that weight, so yeah. It definitely let go of all that weight I was carrying when it hit the ground, and then I started dropping really fast. Unfortunately, that was just, you know, it is more difficult than it seems because, once again, the flight dynamic will change because you have cargo underneath, and it just makes it a lot more difficult. I mean, as you can see, it's not upcoming, it's not hard to hold a hover, once you get some practice in, but once you have that cargo, it just changes everything. Now, I did overfly it. It's because I'm actually going to go to a different one, just showing you that there's multiple cargo spots, and I really just don't want to do the same one again. But, should be able to move up. Now, you might be able to see that radio tower up ahead. And that radio tower is our current destination because there is a cargo right along that road that is heading kind of northeast. Now we're definitely going to have to loop around on this one because there's a giant radio tower in front of me. We're going to just hook around, but this one actually is kind of nice because if you just follow the road, you're generally going to be fairly good on lining up for it, and you will have that radio tower to have a reference point so you can hold that hover easier. Looking around now. Unfortunately, I'm a bit too high, but we should be able to correct that. Try not to be too aggressive with the downward collective, otherwise, in a few seconds, when we lose translational lift, we could go into a vortex ring state. Yep, that's why you do not want to be, you know, flooring the collective when you're about to, when you're dropping in speed like that. Should be able to do this just fine. But yeah, you can definitely tell when I'm losing that translational lift because the entire cockpit shakes when I'm going into a hover. We're just going to try to line up. Now I'm turning the nose towards the radio tower once again just to get that reference. And all I have to do, yep, there we can see it off there to the right. And we should just be able to scoot over the road. And from here we should have a pretty good reference point on where we need to hover and hook the cargo. Now, it takes about 5 seconds or so to actually hook up the cargo, but once you do, you also have to take off vertically because you don't want to drag. You don't want to drag the cargo. You have to take off directly vertically, otherwise you're going to be dragging the cargo across the ground, which is not going to be good. And when you drag the cargo in that initial stage, that is mostly where you're going to see things like the snapping of the rope, and you're going to lose the cargo. But this time we're going to be a bit more mindful on the approach, I think. Try to lower ourselves a bit earlier if I can. I should be able to correct, I know what I did wrong last time, so hopefully we should be able to do things correct this time. Still a bit too high. I need to start dropping that altitude if I can. Now, if you do plan on doing this yourself, I'm actually going to show you a trick I like to use for this once we get back in there. Altitude's looking good though, so we should definitely be, we're definitely on course for a good drop here. I have a good feeling about this one then. Gotta really ramp up the power now. Alright, now the trick I'm going to be using is, if you can see off to the right there, you can see the shadow of the helicopter. Now with that shadow, we should be able to actually see when it's on the ground and use that instead of having to rely on the camera. It can also just be a bit nicer. I'm just going to try to get into as stable of a hover as I possibly can, and then let's go and go down as slowly as possible. Down very slowly, but this should guarantee that we have safe cargo when we finally drop it. And as we can see with the shadow, the cargo is no longer moving, and we got paid. There we go. So that was our first successful cargo drop. Now let's go ahead and head out to find the infantry for a transport run, so we can see the two different aspects of this. We're gonna just head around the coast, because I'm not exactly sure. I have a good idea. He's either north or south of the radio tower, but he is on that side. I think he's on the north, but I'm gonna start at the south just in case. Love the sound of the Huey. Oh, there's a flare. As you can see by those flares, that is actually an infantry you can pick up. Now, I have picked up that guy before, but you have to hover next to his boat, like right next to it for about 5 seconds, and it's not exactly easy, and it's definitely going to be time-consuming to do that one, so I'm not going to go for him, but it is interesting, and, something you could do if you go ahead and download the mission yourself. And once again, you don't have to do only the cargo, I believe, is restricted to the Huey, because the Huey is currently, I believe, the only helicopter that can do sling loading. But With the MI8, you can go and transport troops as well, so you can go and do that if that's what you have. I actually have the MI8, and I actually love it. But it is different, and I really wanted to show off the cargo lifting, so we're going to stick with the Huey for this run. We're just going to fly low and slow across the coast. He's either here, or it's the city up from here, along the coast. Don't think he's here. Nope, not looking like it. Now, if he was here, he'd shoot up that flare like you saw with the boat. Very easy to see. It's not a... You don't really need too many waypoints to find some infantry. And as you may have saw there is a cargo position near that radio tower. Still, so they don't despawn. You can go back and do them as much as you want. I mean, they aren't permanently gone, so feel free to give the same one a go if you wanted to. Now, he should be along the beach here. We definitely see his flare if he's around here, but he should... Yep, there it is. I'm a bit too high, though, so I'm really going to need to slow down. I might have to just do a vertical drop. I probably won't have any forward momentum by the time I get there, so... Yep. Gotta fight that a bit. Trying to set up my trim. Should be able to land just right next to him, no problem. This definitely is not Harma, where you can just land in 3 seconds. There we go, nice and close. Alright.
Passengers boarding, wait second.
Yep, so it takes a bit of time in case you're doing something like a hovering landing. It's definitely a bit more challenging. I actually like that aspect. Now let's go ahead and open the map so I can go ahead and find where I'm going.
The reported stolen vehicle.
Alright, now that is their station, also known as Madrid. And that's where we're going to be dropping off infantry. As you could have possibly seen, on the map there's a whole bunch of waypoints and indicators on where cargo is and things like that, so you can more easily find things. So you're not completely working off your naked eye if you don't want to. We're just going to tune this into the rough heading we needed to go. Okay, it looks good. Looks just a bit to the northwest, so I'm not 100% if... Could be wrong. Might as well follow the computer. Not gonna make any changes in course. Yeah, I really love flying the Huey. It's fantastic for the experience of flight. I mean, the Black Shark is definitely, you know, tank destroyer. It's nice, blows shit up. And when you think of DCS, you might think of, you know, combat simulation. I mean, it's definitely the combat that sticks out when it comes to the flight simulation, because not a lot of simulators flight simulators out there have combat, so it's kind of, you know, it was kind of different moving over to the Huey, where the experience in it is not within the combat. It's just, you know, it's like FSX Cessna. You know, people get their enjoyment from the experience of flight within the Cessna, not from, you know, blowing shit up. So, it's definitely similar within the Huey. It's not something I would take out to go kill tanks or anything in a mission, but it is a lot of fun for sling loading and transport, especially sling loading. Just the challenge of hovering, and not just the challenge of hovering, but, you know, the flight dynamic changes when you're carrying the cargo is also really nice. So it definitely has its own charm, especially, and that goes for the MI8 as well. The MI8 also has some really good charm. And I'm actually liking the MI8 a lot. Just had to check the map there to make sure I was going in the right direction. Looks like I am though, so we should be good. We are at a good altitude right now. It's going to help us out if we... in the very rare chance we will need to auto-rotate. Alright, now over this hill we possibly should be able to see the actual camp. Let's hope so. Yep, I think that's it. Is that it? I'm not seeing any helipads. Yep, that's it, I think. Yep.
Stolen vehicle report. F frequency FM 4900.
Still a bit high altitude because we had to go over that hill there. Most likely gonna have to take a bit of time dropping again. Managing the altitude can be a bit... it's not something you can do rapidly, unfortunately. Unless, especially when you're slowing down in situations like this. If you do that, very possible you could go into a vortex ring state. Which would not be good. In the Huey, the vortex ring state is definitely... it's not as much of a worry. You keep an eye on your vertical speed indicator. It's not as much of a worry as it is in the MI8. MI8 is notorious for going into vortex ring state. I still need a lot of practice until I'm confident with some of the landings. But yep, let's make sure not to get below that -1 vertical speed. Just a little left of the pad. Let's see if I can kind of scoot over a little bit more centered. Yeah, fuck it. Let's just land. Get this transport run over with. Oh, good. Payment? No, it's actually not uncommon to get payments of around 500 if you were to go, like with a cargo. We transported it to the closer airport. If we went to the other one, it most likely would have netted us more around $400 to $500 instead of the 150 I think we got. So it definitely has some potential within multiplayer for that competitiveness, which I think is nice. Though I really wish, I mean, like I said, it'd be awesome if you could add the option of using that money for things like fuel, because usually it loads you out with very little fuel. Well, I shouldn't say very little. 20% fuel is actually quite a bit when we're only dealing with maybe a 20 nautical mile max distance back and forth. But it'd be really nice to add that aspect where you have to pay for some of the things you need to do. Like pay for fuel, repairs. I think that would be very interesting for a single player. It'd definitely give the single player play a bit more depth. I have been playing this a bit in the MI8, but I'm still getting used to it. I don't even know the full startup procedure yet. But it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's not the prettiest helicopter, but it is a lot of fun to fly.
Springfield 1-1, inbound.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to respond to my radio call out because I'm not sure if I enabled the radio, because I'm new to the Huey startup as well, so I don't think I enabled my radios when I was starting this up. So I'm going to go ahead and lower my altitude as best as possible for the approach. You know, I'm actually being a bit more aggressive with the downward vertical speed, because we don't have any transport and we're just ending this up I'm not gonna bother being too careful. I think to the left of those buildings up ahead, maybe 1 o'clock. I think that is where we're going to be landing, but I'm not sure if that's it or if we should land to the left a bit. The left side of the runway. Or left, anyway. It looks like that's a good spot to land, so we'll go and land up ahead. I really love landing in the Huey. It's an absolute joy to hover. It's a lot of fun. If you want to fly the Huey, though, I would have to recommend a good set of pedals. Alright, we should be good to set down. Go ahead and head for that diamond right there off our right foot. Alright. Touchdown, nice and safe. Well, that will be the end, I think, of this mission. Once again, this mission is downloadable, so you can go ahead and find the link in the description. Works with both the Huey as well as the MI8. I'm just going to go ahead and shut this down, but yep, thanks for tuning in.